أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the third review session of the Al-Maghrib course Torch Bearers. This course was taught by Sheikh Walid Basuni, and this review session is brought to you by Qabilat Bushra. We begin our discussion of the third scholar, Umar ibn Abdil Azeez, who was also known as the fifth rightly guided Khalifa. We begin this discussion with the story of Umar ibn al-Khattab, who during his Khilafah was once walking through the streets of Medina and heard a woman asking her daughter to mix in water with the milk that they were going to sell. The daughter refused to do that, saying that the Khalifa Umar had prohibited that, and the woman told her daughter that, well, he's not here, he's not watching you, and she still refrained and said that he may not be watching us, but the Rabb, Allah, is watching us. And so Umar ibn Khattab was so impressed that he went home and asked his sons which one of them wanted to get married, and his son Asim agreed, and he married this young girl to his son Asim. And Umar radiallahu anhu also had a dream that through that one of his progeny, one of his children or grandchildren would basically unite the Muslim Ummah. And so the child of this couple was a daughter who they named Layla. Layla grew up and married a noble prince from the Umayyads, Abdul Aziz, and through this union, Layla gave birth to Umar ibn Abdil Azeez. So basically the great-grandson of Umar ibn al-Khattab. He was born in Medina, and he died relatively young at the age of 40 years, and we'll talk about his death in a bit. His father was a prince, Abdul Aziz, who was appointed as a ruler of Egypt, and he comes from a royal family. Something about his mother was very, very concerned with his tarbiyah, and she spent a lot of time making sure that he was learning and he was on the right track. He made up some very strong goals early in his life, and one of his goals was to marry Fatima, and you can read more about Fatima in the notes. His appearance, he was thinly built, tan-colored, and he lived a very luxurious lifestyle because he came from a lot of wealth. Remember, his father was a prince. Interestingly enough, an incident about him is that he would touch the most expensive cloth and he would still say it was rough. And the opposite of this was true when he became a Khalifa, when he basically would touch the roughest and the coarsest material and still say it was too soft. That's an interesting story that is in your notes. Some of the factors that shaped his life, he had access, because of his wealth, he had access to a lot of information. He was in the city of scholars, and he had access to scholarships and scholars, and he had a very deep love of the Sunnah. What's interesting about this is that this love of the Sunnah is what is going to lead him towards one of the greatest achievements that he had many great achievements, but one of them was the huge Hadith movement, and we will talk about that in a little bit. One of his wonderful sayings was that he would suggest that you add one good practice and eliminate one bad habit. So change comes gradually and not immediately. That was his argument. His special qualities are listed on this slide, but I would once again refer you to the notes because there are much, much more than this. He was, like I said, he was in the city of scholars, and so because of his wealth, he had more access to information than any common person would have. he lived a very, once he became the Khalifa, once he was appointed as the Khalifa, one of his first tasks was to fire himself, and then he went to the public and announced that I'm not your Khalifa anymore, and he wanted the people to choose who they wanted as their Khalifa, and there was a unanimous decision that he would be appointed as their Khalifa. And once he was, then he basically decided to live a very, very simple lifestyle, and so his whole lifestyle changed 180 degrees. And an example of this is when a woman came to his house to ask for help, and she saw the house was completely empty. She met his wife and the house was completely empty, and she questioned that, and the wife, Fatima, the wife of the Khalifa, basically said that our house is empty because of filling houses like yours. So this is an indication of what a simple lifestyle he led. What is fascinating about him is that he had led a very wealthy lifestyle, and then he went back and lived a very, very very simple lifestyle. So he had tasted wealth, and then he gave it up, which is a very, very very commendable on many levels. He did create an advisory committee, the Committee of 10. These are the people who would advise him when he was the governor of Medina and Hijaz. He also, like I said, the Hadith movement is basically when he appointed people to start recording Hadiths, and this is more of details about this are in the notes. He passed away really, really young at the age of 40. He was poisoned by a slave who had been given money by someone. And when he found out that he had been poisoned, he called the slave in and asked everybody to leave. And he asked the slave what money he had got for poisoning him, and he told him that go ahead and give that money up. And then he went ahead and told the slave to run away. The point of that being that he did not want any ill feeling within his heart as he went to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This scholar, there is a lot of information about him, and please check the notes because I've just touched on 3 or 4 things. So be sure to read all the notes and some of the lessons that we can learn from his life. Once again, the exam is on March 12th. At almaghrib.org from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Please do practice with the mock exam, and inshallah we will be back with our next review session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.